association with devotees always helps that faith, and it can encourage you more and more.
It's described in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 3rd verse, is that it says that faith is created by the association of devotees. So when we hear, it's like we were talking, some ladies were talking this morning, one was just saying that I read at home, but it's not the same as when I hear from devotees, when we discuss, when we get to ask questions, answer questions, and there's discussion. Because when I read by myself, sometimes I don't understand, and I get bored, I put it away. So it's helpful to read in the association of devotees, to do everything in the association of devotees, and especially to associate with people whose faith is strong, because conviction is contagious. So when you hear someone speak who has conviction, who feels strongly about what they're speaking, it rubs off on you. It has an effect. And so, when we heard Prabhupada had so much conviction, so much faith in Krishna, that we had faith just by hearing his faith, just by seeing his faith. Wow, he came to this country, was 72, 60 years old, nothing, no money, nothing. How much faith is that? Come plop in the middle of New York City from Vrindavan and just no money, nothing, and just start chanting Hare Krishna somewhere. So much faith, and you see that faith and you associate with that faith, and it brings faith to your heart. So if you associate with people who are faithful, even if they're a little neophyte, but they're faithful, then that faith will grow in you and you can share together, and that's very helpful for increasing faith. It's also helpful to have somebody that you can confidentially speak your mind to, that you don't have to pretend to be anything. You can just be who you are and admit your frailties and express your feelings to somebody, and that person will reciprocate by infusing you with support and faith. That's also very helpful.
Forward to that, because usually at night, that's when I pick up a book and try to read, and after the third time it falls from my hand, I say, okay, forget it. I don't get very far. But that night, I do hear the Chaitanya Church meeting. It's so nectar because there's a lot of senior devotees, and the discussions are really, really nice. And you go home remembering that part of the Chaitanya Church meeting more than you've ever heard it before. So if you can get at least one night a week that you read.
Which takes us to the next question, is how to have and support the state of mind of Krishna consciousness.
It's more or less the same thing.
Yeah, more or less.
One thing is that if you go out and preach, that's when I find that if you step out there in the material world, you really see the difference of consciousness in people. And it makes you really feel good that you're devotee. And go back into the temple or back with your Krishna conscious friends, you have a lot of appreciation, and your faith really is even stronger. But you have to go out there and preach and to actually to give what you've heard. It's like it makes it a complete circle inside of you. That you've been hearing and have this realization, and give it to somebody, and then it tells you. It makes it a really complete thing, and it makes it much stronger.
One thing also is retreats. Like we have this Vaishnavi retreat. How many of you like this Vaishnavi retreat? Having a good time? So you can stay awake long enough to keep your hand up. So, we can't have retreats like this all the time, but we can have gatherings regularly. Like Akuti was saying, we get together, some ladies, 6, 7, 8, but it's different. There's a core group, and we come together, but sometimes we're traveling or they're traveling. But there's always something, and we get together every Monday night, and we know what night it is, we know what time it is, and we just start at 7 and end at 8. The host doesn't have any obligation except to provide a space. There's no food served, nothing, just the nectar, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we all meet, we know where to go, we know what night it is, we know it's every Monday night, we come together, we read, and we can count on it. We You can count that we're going to have that association. And there's other groups that go on at different times and different days, so you can take advantage of them. So you can make your own group with people who live near you, people who speak your language, people who are available to you because of some organization or you work in the same place or whatever. You can make a group that comes together one night a week or one day a week, and even if you make it for lunch together, meet it for lunch together, then you can exchange Krishna consciousness, give each other some support, some strength, because like if you're working outside with non-devotees all day or by yourself all day, sometimes you come home and you're alone and then you just go in your room and by yourself. So you need some association, you need some camaraderie, but also you don't need a lot of obligations because you've already had a lot of obligations. You just need something you can do for a while and just get some association and not have to do anything big and elaborate to get it happening. So just try to make little sanghas together that don't cost money, don't cost much time, and you can share, you can ask your questions, you can share responses, you can make, if you don't know something, you can make a deal in your mind or you can ask somebody who might know, and that way you can increase your Krishna consciousness and the Krishna consciousness of your friends. If anyone has any other suggestions, you can have to do them. Not that we're the only ones who can make it. Okay. Woman divorced and has children. Ex-husband has a new wife. Does woman need to do something to get married, or she needs just to focus on Krishna consciousness and the duties? Depends on some things that aren't on this card. In general, the answer would be yes. Focus on your duties, focus on your children, focus on your Krishna consciousness. Don't get into another relationship. That would be a general answer. But if you're young and the breakup of the relationship had nothing to do with you, it was like that person, your husband was unfaithful, he ran off, he did, then you can get remarried, but under no circumstances will you go and look for another husband. That's always a bad thing to do. You can try and speak to your authorities or some friends and see if they can assist you somehow or other. But your consciousness, it should be to just go about your duties, take care of your current responsibilities, and become Krishna conscious, and then depend on Krishna's mercy. Whatever that may be. If Krishna's mercy is that you find another responsible person in your life, great. And if not, great. But if you're hunting, you're in trouble. There will always be a problem.
And just the vibration you put out is the hunting part. So, and that's a distraction completely to your Krishna consciousness and to other people also. And probably to the children too. So, outright hunting and license isn't good. But, I would do some intense praying, that's what I would do. And pray to Krishna to please direct you inside. I'm sure it must be hard because you have to figure out how to pay the bills and that kind of stuff. It seems like you wouldn't have time to think of anything else but just keeping everything together. No.
Yeah, it's a tough one unless you know the details of the circumstance. So, because we don't know the details of the circumstances, just get a general answer.
Also depends how old the children are, how they do it.
Yeah, probably.
Just moving around. It's very disturbing to the whole temple society. So, I mean, it's a natural thing. I mean, all women want to be married, but it has to be done.
One thing is that it causes a reaction, like Vaishnavi was saying yesterday, that we all pay for. That, if women are, and men, but one or the other, if they're distracted and they're acting in a way that is counterproductive to Krishna consciousness because that's on their mind, then it makes people think, well, they shouldn't be available, they shouldn't be visible, they shouldn't be here, they should be, seen and not heard, or even not seen and not heard, not. And so then you get this reaction, and everyone suffers from it. So we need to work it out. Socially, we need to find a system. We have to have a good system for not only introducing people, but allowing them to get to know each other and going through the vetting process of it, so fewer mistakes are made. Any other comments on this discussion? Please.
How to deal with often depressions and feeling down. Chant. Chant a lot. But that's not always the problem, Sometimes if you're not chanting and being attentive, or if you're not chanting without a fence, then it might just be mechanical chanting. It might take up a lot of your day, but it might not really go to the heart and actually go to the mind and help. So most of us in the Western culture need to be busy in some kind of a service for Krishna to keep our mind from taking over. So I always recommend people find some particular service that you like to do for Krishna. That you like to do, and then do it for Krishna, and keep your senses busy. And then usually the mind will get absorbed in thinking about all those different things you have to do for Krishna during the day. And then, your consciousness is up. And that's how I usually solve things, is just to find some project to do for Krishna. And, or go do some service with somebody else that has a project, offer to help. And that, usually, that engagement will help.
Yeah, all these, several of these questions are very related to each other, and they come back to finding our way into the association of devotees and into the service of the devotees, or the just service of Krishna. That we tend, when we first became devotees, everybody lived in the temple. We all lived in the temple. To live outside the temple was considered a no-no. You were like a fringy. We used to call people fringy. You were fringy if you lived outside the temple. So everybody lived in the temple. The brahmacharinis had a brahmachari ashram, and the brahmacharis had a brahmachari ashram. And even myself, when I was married, I lived in Toronto, I gave birth to two of my daughters in the temple building. So, 187 Gerrard Street East. We were always together. Sometimes that was a bit of a drag, but most of the time it was everybody busy, everybody do everything. If you talk to people in Maharaj, she'll tell you stories about how I would wake him up at 2:30 in the morning, and we would go in the kitchen and polish all the brass before the deities would open for Mangal Arati. So we would take all the vases off the altar, all the brass off the altar at night, leave it in the kitchen. In the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock, we'd go in the kitchen, and all the devotees would be in there. We'd redo all the vases, polish all the brass, we'd be singing and dancing. 3 o'clock in the morning, right? We'd be like banging on the things and polishing the brass, and we were like very much a family, and it was very dynamic. I mean, sometimes people got in your way, and you kind of like wanted to go in your room and close the door and not see anyone for a few minutes. But basically, we were always together. And now we have lots of privacy, or at least the appearance of privacy. We live in our own house or our own apartment, or we have our own family. And we only see the devotees in certain structured situations. When we come to Sunday feast, we all dance together at Arati. Maybe we sit together and eat at a table in Govinda's, or on the floor at the Sunday feast. But basically, we go back to our own little cubicle and do our own thing. And so we have to be a little bit active, right? We're in school, we're at work, we're wherever we are, but we're not as together in casual friendship as we used to be. And And sometimes we have to create opportunities for that. We have to create opportunities for dadati, pratigrinanti, the 6 exchanges of love between devotees, giving gifts, receiving prasadam, receiving prasadam, revealing one's mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially. These are the 6 exchanges of love recommended between devotees, and we need to create environments where those things can happen. You're not going to reveal your mind in confidence at the Sunday feast or at Mangalarti, So you need to go beyond that and create an opportunity to get good associate. And even if you're doing service, it's nice to have someone with you. It's nice to be doing service with devotees if it's at all possible. So when there's a festival, like Rath Yatra's coming up, or Janmashtami, or Vyasa Puja, or something, then you can go and there's lots of devotees doing service, and you can volunteer to help, and then you get the association of devotees in service. It's particularly sweet.
Something also very nice to do is to actually go out and share Krishna consciousness with somebody else, and that will bring up your consciousness amazingly, to see the change in somebody else, that you can receive it so clearly. I have some ministering at prisons and jails before, and we're trying to get into this women's prison now. And a couple ladies didn't have anything to do, they were kind of impressed, and I got them on board, and they've been helping me. And when you go to the prison and you talk to these women, these men, they appreciate it so much. And it's not a real difficult thing to do, and you can do it at your local prison or jail. And it's just really rewarding, and it just keeps your consciousness so high, and you know you're affecting them. I mean, it's so clear, you really appreciate it. So there's many things you can do in an outreach department, just tons of things. I highly recommend it. There's another part. Please tell us how to keep doing karma yoga, giving all fruits to Krishna practically, what goals to put in life, and which desires to have according to spiritual life. Well, that's good that you have a desire for spiritual life. That's what we want to keep. There's going to be a change of desires. We might come to the described in Bhagavad Gita. You might come out of the desire that you want some wealth, or you want some association, or you want something from Krishna. And it will change with purity. It'll change, and to come to that highest level of actually just wanting to do everything for Krishna, nothing for myself. And then there's a time when we're going to find ourselves doing mixed devotional service, one for you, Krishna, and one for me. Krishna seeing what you're keeping in your back pocket. And so we're all having purities and bad habits and our desires. Nothing's wrong with it.
Krishna now and again, I need prasadam. So gradually, by doing whatever you can, and aspiring for more. That's the important thing, is that you don't settle for less and just get depressed and say, well, this is all I can do, tough luck. Take what you can get. You're lucky you're getting this, Krishna. But rather keep aspiring and attribute your lack of ability to your own self. That I can't do this right now, but I'm going to try. I'm going to work at it. Like when we were doing the Zumba yesterday. She's doing all these things, and she knows them really well, and we're standing there like trying to figure out what's next, and she's going off, and we're like, okay. But we were still talking about, if we practice, if we knew the steps, if we take some time to learn the steps, then gradually we'll be able to do it right. So anything like that, Bharatanatyam, and cooking, anything, if you want to learn, you start small, and then you practice, and then you develop skills, and then you become expert. But if when you're just learning, you think, well, I'm just learning, I'm sticky fest, I'm terrible, I'm never going to do it again, then you're never going to do anything. So you need to keep working at it. You need to apply yourself and keep aspiring to do better. Because the aspiration is what will move you forward.
Also, if you're really attached to what you're doing, like you said, you're not thinking you're doing it good enough, but that's an attachment that also will cause depression. If you're always thinking, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, and then that's also depression. So you should always think, be satisfied, I'm doing my best for Krishna, and I'm sure he's accepting. And don't be so attached to the result.
actually, Krishna only accepts one thing from us, and that's our intention. He really doesn't need anything else. We can offer leaves and fruits and flowers and prasadam and bhoga. We can offer some talents. We may be very gifted. But the fact is that Krishna only wants our devotion, our intention. And he doesn't need leaves, and he doesn't need fruits, and he doesn't need flowers. And he has the best cooks in the world cooking for him, and the best sewers in the world sewing for him, and the best jewelry makers in the world making jewelry for him. So we can use everything in Krishna's service, but the difference in Krishna's eyes is our devotion. And that's why Prabhupada said it's the same to Krishna whether you're washing the black and white marble floor or whether you're dressing the black and white marble deities. Prabhupada said that in Vrindavan. So what does that mean? It means that Krishna sees you sincerely washing the floor to please him. He sees you sincerely dressing the deities to please him. What he sees is to please him. Whatever you're doing to please him, he accepts. And if you're doing it for any other reason, then to that extent that there's another reason, the offering is a little bit foggy. The offering is a little bit not so pleasing. So the more we can develop the desire just to please Krishna and purify our intention, then whatever we offer, even if it's just like a child, making some cutout crown for his mom on Mother's Day, and it's made out of construction paper, and it has a little glitter on it, and it says mom in weird letters, and he gives it to his mother, It's not like it was expensive, it wasn't hard to make, he's not an expert craftsman, but the mother is touched by the emotion, by the sentiment, by the devotion of the child. And that's how Krishna reciprocates with us. So if we're just trying to cultivate that sincerity, then Krishna will reciprocate.
She told me that in Dallas the kids used to make jewelry for the deities, just stringing little anklets and things like that. And one day a week or something, the month, they would actually put the things that the kids made on the deities. And that really encouraged
A lot of Kalachanti are very big. The kids would make like little seed bead necklaces, so they'd be like hanging off his fingers and hanging on his flute, hanging on his ears, things. We'd hang them all over the place, and the kids would see, oh, there's my Kalachanti's wearing my thing on his bracelet, on his flute or something.
So we're like the kids, doing all these different things for Krishna and hanging them on, and he's happy.
Okay, the next one is easy, well, not easy, but it's fun. How important is it to call every female Mataji? I know a few females who don't like it. First of all, Prabhupada said that every man should see every woman as his mother. He didn't say every woman should see every woman as her mother. Right? So the men are supposed to see the women as mother, and somehow that's evolved to calling every mother mother, or every woman mother. But it doesn't mean that every woman is supposed to call every woman mother, necessarily. I mean, it's just a habit. Do you ever call the postman the boo? Someone comes to deliver a package and you say, thanks, boo. It just becomes a habit, so everybody's calling everybody mother or Mataji, and we don't have to call everybody mother. There's no reason for it. You should be mother, call mother, whatever your mother wants to be called, mom, mata, whatever. But we should have some kind of respectful title for senior people. Prabhu, Project Prabhu, whatever, cake, pizza, and...
I don't think what Prabhupada did. What did he do? He befriended us, and he gave us he befriended us by giving them Sunday love feast. And then he gave a lot of compassion. I think that'd be the top thing. Like when I go out to the colleges and sit at the table, on the way that I'm generating a mood of, I just really want to help these kids. I really want to help them. College kids are like, not knowing where they're going, they have no idea what they're going to do in their life. This is their time, and they're all thinking of, where I'm going to be when I grow up. And And so I just think, I'm just going to go out there and try to help them somehow or other. So the best way is your feelings of compassion and really wanting to help someone. And then somehow or other Krishna will help you figure out what that soul needs. You'll just happen to say the right thing, or you'll just be the person that happens to be there, and they come by to get that book that they've always wanted. So, yeah, and if you don't go out, you can't help anybody. I mean, unless you're trying to do some kind of preaching, just like, if you just ignore people that are interested in Krishna consciousness, that ain't going to help them. But the real help is that you're there for them, number one, that you're willing to help them, and that you're very compassionate. And to help someone love Krishna, I'm sure Laxmimoni and everybody really say, just befriend them, become their friend. That's what I would do. You say that here. Somebody else? Someone else thinks this.
What was that?
The gun on their head.
Top three is what Prabhupada gave us the holy name, chanting, music, something we liked, because he saw what we needed. He saw we were starving, and that we liked music. We had drummer circles and stuff like that, and that we were kind of lost. We didn't know what was going on in life. We were intoxicated. So he gave us the holy name in music form. He gave us gulab jamuns, prasadam in prasadam form. And he gave us philosophy of Krishna consciousness so that we could grab our mind and understand that the material world was supposed to be miserable. That's why we were miserable. And that we were something better. So those
So we have to make all those things tasty. We have to make the prasadam tasty, the bhajans, the music that we have on the streets and the parks has to be tasty, it has to be melodious, very nice, helps. And then those other,
philosophy.
and the philosophy, make the philosophy tasty. Not like some of the demonstrations that we had here today, negative ones, but make it very sweet and just beautiful to look at. Oh, I want that book because it looks so good. And what I'm hearing is so good. I just want to hear more. I definitely want to take that back to home and read it. So, yeah, we have to become expert in that way. And then a lot of people come to Krishna.
Is there or are there any programs for kids that can be implemented here in Toronto? Yeah.
What do they have?
In Toronto, I don't know if they have anything. But in that other temple,
Yeah, Sunday school.
they have a really good Sunday school that's going to soon develop into a school, I think, or some effort along the lines of the school. First of all, you need people. Or you need parents who are interested in doing something for their children collectively. You got to get a group of parents together who say, we need something for our kids. And then they look for a person who can do it.
We did it because we needed something for our kids.
Yeah, we did it because we needed something for our kids. Unfortunately, not fortunately, but whatever would happen, our kids grew up long before we stopped doing it. We continued many, many years after our kids were gone.
And we stopped doing it because we couldn't find anything else to do.
Right, we couldn't find anyone else to take it over. So, but and they're not talking about an ashram school like we ran. That was a 24/7 thing. Even a Sunday school, some kind of sanghas like we suggested for the women, getting together a couple of nights a week, especially during the summer, a couple of days a week. My daughter, I guess this is not a new concept. For me, it's a new concept. She's always making play dates with her, with the other children for her kids in the neighborhood, whatever. She finds people that she likes, that she thinks have good values or whatever, and she makes play dates with those parents that the children can come together. So we can also do that. You can get together with them, and that serves two purposes. You get the association of the other devotee woman, and your kids get the association of the child. So get together, go to a splash park, or I guess you don't splash much in this weather, but whatever you do in this climate, do it, and find some time to get together, try to get a Sunday school together. It will increase everything if you get a Sunday school together. But you need people who are dedicated who'll do it. I don't know, maybe the ones who do it over there will know somebody else who'll do it over here. But you really need people who are into it and who are going to make it work. Because the one thing about a school is it has to be steady. It really has to be steady. So that means the parents or the people involved, they have to be really dedicated, and they're going to go, because it's not going to just be smooth sailing. Everything you want to do is going to happen boom, 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 boom. It's going to be hard. There's going to be people pulling you out and coming in and complaining and whatever, you know. And you're going to have a variety of kids, all different ages, and you're going to have to figure out how to deal with them because they're, you know, from 3 to 18 and so many different things. So you have to be prepared to ride it through. So whoever does it has to be really dedicated.
We have, you know, bus tours going on all the time. We have bus tours now from anywhere from ages 10 up to 20 or something like that. They're really dynamic for the kids. We could do like a mini scale there, or have join them down south. Summer camps. You can have small ones. We just I thought we had everything going on last year. Some of the ladies just came up with a small little girls summer camp, just for a couple of hours a day, learning how to swim and learning how to do a little Bharatanatyam, just really teeny kids and girls. But, you know, that engages them for a couple hours. Hey, that's great. During the summer, there's nothing to do. There's so many things you can do. You'll do
Anything about Krishna, and they're not going to, the worst part is they're not going to learn the foundational qualities that we want to build on. You know, for all of our childhood, it is meant to be written on with the values that we want our children to have for the rest of their lives. You know, children don't just reach 15 and learn everything. They learn, their learning is layered in them from birth. And so if we plug them into a television or plug them into a computer or, you know, plug them into somebody else's value system that isn't our value system, that's what they're going to learn. We're putting them in someone else's hands and they're saying, okay, you can raise my kids. And then when they come back and somehow or other they didn't imbibe our values, we're like, what happened? I've been a devotee all my life, where did you come from? But you came from my negligence, that's where you came from.
There are programs of mentorship where you can find some older youth that will kind of take them under their care and take them to go do basketball or learn how to do this or that. You could get up on a mentorship program. Also, I noticed I have my workshop near the play field, and we have a charter school where they don't teach Krishna. And a lot of our kids go there because it's free. But after school, there are a couple of kids there, older kids, that immediately engage in an afternoon activity, soccer or whatever it is, or learning how to do something Vaishnava-like. But they're taken care of, and they're given Krishna consciousness right after the non-devotional school.
Some of the activities that we do in Brandon, like we take the kids out for strawberry picking or picking our parents, and we take them out, and after that we have a little picnic. And we've been organizing annual picnics in summer, so we have games for the kids and prizes, and we also have Christmas events for the kids. But the Christmas event, Krishna conscious Christmas event, and we like for this year our plan is to not to give them gifts, but to show them how to give gifts to others. So we are planning to take them out and give gifts to others. And in 2 weeks we are going to have a picture day for the kids in the Sunday school. So picture day, we all have that in other schools, in public schools, and parents pay big money to get the pictures, but we have picture day for the kids, and there's someone like Krishna decorated and everything, and we have a picture with Krishna. So we have these activities, and there are many things like this that we do.
He says, no one's ever done that for me before. He says, I just want to thank you all so much. You know, he was really touched by that little thing.
For Thanksgiving in Lake Huntington, we had all the women make pastries, different kinds, and we made these plates of different kinds of pastries, and the kids would take them store to store and just give them as gifts on Thanksgiving. Say thank you for, having a shop in our area and serving all the people in our area, and just gave the proprietor of the store this plate of, a donut and a cupcake and a whatever. And it was also had very nice impact, very, very favorably looked upon. Also, we have sometimes costume shows, costume contests for like Ram Navami or different Vaishnav holidays. We have the children dress in different ways, and they go to the Sunday feast or the festival, and they show, and there's applause, and then there's a winner, and the winner gets something. Everybody gets a prize. Everybody gets something. So,
We also do that, like dress up for Ramon, and every festival we make sure that the kids have a performance. Because we notice that when the kids have a performance, their friends and their other friends and the parents come. So it's a bigger crowd in the festival when the kids are performing.
That's good. So there's a lot of ideas for you. Here's an interesting question.
What if you are not attracted to men and have no desire for men? What to do? Still a married man to make a family? Papa said, someone asked him one time, what if, you get rid of all the sex desire, and then what will happen to the world? He goes, we'll all go back home, that'd be good. He didn't say it was a bad thing. He said, well, that will stop all the population, and eventually all of us go back. So, if you are that kind of a woman, congratulations, and yeah, just go for not getting married. That's what I say. But if you are not really being honest with yourself, then you're going to have problems. You're going to end up at 40 years old thinking, oh, should I? So you have to really be honest with yourselves. Most of the pop-ups is natural, but there are exceptions. So if you are that kind of a person, then you have to find the proper ashram to be in. You can't just stay in the association of all your friends in the house, their households and their kids and everything else, because you'll be agitated. So you have to find a proper ashram where you're going to be able to fulfill your vows.
Yeah, I think that's really important that you have an ashram, a legitimate ashram. So if you're going to be a brahmachari, which means an unmarried student female, then be that. But don't. It's like a man who says, "I don't want to get married. I'm not really made for getting married, but I'm a playboy and I hang out with a million different women and I, horse around with them." But I'm not really cut out for marriage. You wouldn't want to marry me anyway. So that's not an ashram. That's not permitted. That you just create some hodgepodge thing and you do that. That's not really an option. And there are options where you don't have to get married and have a family. That's not the only thing you can do. But you should do one or the other. You should either get married and have a family and live legitimately in that way, or you should become a single student, sadhaka, and focus your mind on rendering devotional service and do that. But don't do half of each. That is not a good idea. Yes?
What if you are attracted to other women? We talked about this a little bit the other day, but what kind of, for example, what if a woman wants to have a Grihastha life with another woman? For example, maybe adopt, what if she wants to be a mother? So adopt a child or 2 children with another woman. Is that permitted, provided they refrain from sex life, for example? Is that an appropriate option?
Gray area. Technically speaking, if they refrain from sex life, if their relationship is not sexual, then it's okay. Why not? I mean, Akuti and I lived together for a long time. So, and I know other women who have very good relationships with other women, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But any kind of sexual connection, and then it becomes not a good thing, because sex is for the procreation of children, and that's not possible in a relationship in which there's 2 people of the same gender. So if she wants to be a mother and she wants to adopt children, that's not my decision. The courts have to decide if she's capable of raising a child. It's certainly better for a child to have a mother and a father, but it's also better for a child to have a good family than to have, you know, a not a good family. Usually if you adopt a child, it's because the child somehow doesn't have a good family. So it's a gray area, but you really have to look in your heart and see what's going on there. Because if it's a created ashram, and there is some, you say grihasta couple. It's not really a grihasta couple. Is it just two women living together and trying to make advancement in devotional service? Go for it. You know, no problem. Is that okay? Okay. Should there be separate zones for men and women in the temple hall like it was in old times? I think there still are separate zones, aren't there? No?
Yeah, I mean, in the temple room, as far as hallways, we don't have hallways.
What do you mean by zones? I don't know.
I mean, like in the Pujari room, it's very uncomfortable because ours is really small, and we just have to, like, you have to be real conscious, otherwise you're going to button each other's butts together. You have to really be, you have to know that when someone's coming, you see a male person coming this way, you shut the door, the drawer that you have pulled out, you go to the side, you know?
Because the drawers open, there's an aisle, and there's two sets of drawers, one on each side of the aisle. And if the drawers are both open, then there's only like a few inches between them. So no one can get through. And even if one drawer is open and the other one's closed, it's barely enough for, and you're in the drawer, so your hearing aid is sticking out that way, and someone's trying to get by, it can be kind of embarrassing. So, but I don't really understand this question so much. In the temple, generally the men are on one side, the women are on the other. In the Sunday feast here, it kind of gets like everyone goes everywhere and it's a big merge. But it's not like that everywhere. It's not like that everywhere. In most temples, there is a pretty much understood demarcation where the women stand on one side and men stand on the other. And but in Washington, D.C., for instance, what they've done is they've roped off a couple of feet in front of the deities so that people can go through and take darshan. But the bulk of the temple room is divided so that the men are on one side and the women are on the other. And you might want to consider doing that here because it does get kind of like merged and people push into each other. But in general, for what's that? Which temple? Toronto?
Our temple's huge.
I want to travel a little bit. Yeah, Sunday feast it's really crowded. Yeah. Sunday feast is crowded, but in general, your temple is pretty large.
You don't leave an aisle for Prabhupada to see? That's usually the demarcation.
No, they don't leave any line.
We should.
Everybody is everywhere.
When it's morning program, most people
Yeah,
know.
every day when it's the regular time, then it's not a problem. But the Sunday feast, they don't even leave an aisle for Prabhupada. They really should. Although Prabhupada is very high, so basically he's looking over his head. Because Prabhupada is way up there. No one will be blocking his vision, really. What's that?
all over when we're taking darshan on especially Sundays and you're trying to get by and it's like it isn't the side of
Trying to find them out. You're right. Just in Janamastami, men are always in the front and we Mataji's are in the back. And you have to fight to get into the front.
We should tell them to go to Vaishnavi and see how they do it there, because the women are in the front, the men are in the back.
On our temple.
Yes, I mean, these things they need to be discussed and then they need to be organized. It doesn't happen by just thinking about it. It requires organization. In some temples they put a string down the middle. In Chapati they actually run a string down the middle. Or stanchions, they put them down the middle, or across the front, like I said in Washington, D.C., they have an L from the door across the front. And you go down, if you want to take darshan, you go down, the men and women together, they go down and they take darshan. But once you get into the temple room proper, then the men are on one side and the women are on the other. So, if there is an issue about it, then it should be brought before whoever makes decisions, and it should be discussed how to do it, because it has to be figured out. It requires traffic control initially until people get into the habit, and you have to figure out how to do it. And in LA, for years, the women stood in the balcony and the men stood downstairs, and now they've made it so that the women are downstairs and the men are on one side, the women on the other, and it's fine. Actually, even the way they offer flowers to Prabhupada, it's men, woman, man, woman, man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. And that's also very nice. So, it just depends. In Mayapur, during the festival, they have two Prabhupads. Women offer in one place, women another, because it's too crowded. You just can't. In Vrindavan, it gets insane trying to offer flowers to Srila Prabhupada. It's just nuts, because they have the women on one side and the men on the other, but there's so many women, and people keep getting into the line in the front. You can wait online for 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes before you get to offer flowers. So, during the festival, they move Prabhupada and put him in the middle of the courtyard. They have to make arrangements. So whatever arrangement you think, you can make proposals and try to come up with something that works for your need, because each temple is different.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes.
What do you think about this, to have the separation in the house, in the family life? Like to have a bedroom for a husband and for a wife separately?
A place?
No, to have different bedrooms.
Yeah, Prabhupada recommended that.
I did and I didn't. It depends, I just read a letter yesterday from Prabhupada, written in 1969 to Himabhati, and he said that separation comes from renunciation. It shouldn't be imposed artificially. So if both partners are in agreement that the man should be in one room and the woman should be in another, then do it. But if someone is objecting and the other one is forcing the issue, it's not going to work. It's just going to cause a problem. So it has to come from renunciation, not from force. Prabhupada said it shouldn't be artificial. Okay, what's this? It bothers me that I have better sadhana than my husband, especially because A, it's more difficult to chant alone, and B, I feel proud, more capable than my husband. What kind of attitude I should have in this situation?
He's the judge. What do you want to know? How to deal with the attitude?
Well, she says it's difficult chanting alone. I'm making a judgment here that you're judging better sadhana in quantity, not quality. In other words, from what you say, it's more difficult to chant alone, that you're chanting more rounds than your husband, or that your husband is chanting in the car on the way to work and you're chanting in the temple room at your house, or something like that. It's difficult to answer questions like this when you don't know the specifics. But I'd be careful about judging your sadhana better. And it's probably better to judge your sadhana in relation to your proximity to the Supreme Personality of Godhead than to your husband. In other words, how good your sadhana is how close you are to Krishna, not how close you are to your husband. So, judge your sadhana in relation to Haridas Thakur. Then you'll become more humble. Because to say my sadhana is better than my husband, if my husband doesn't have any sadhana and I have some sadhana, and I say I'm becoming puffed up because my sadhana is better than my husband, that's nothing to be puffed up about. We're all struggling. Maybe I'm chanting 16 rounds, someone else is chanting 14 rounds, but that's nothing to be puffed up about. It's just something I need to work and have an attitude of compassion that I try to chant nicely and keep his atmosphere nice so that he becomes inspired to chant more. But if you're proud, that is an indication that your sadhana isn't as good as you think it is. Because pride doesn't come from good sadhana. Pride goes away with good sadhana. So if you have pride, then your sadhana isn't as good as you think it is.
There can be frustration if you find that your sadhana is better, let's say it is better than your husband. Then you should do a lot of praying. So then Krishna helps your husband become more enthusiastic with his sadhana. So I would do a lot of praying.
One thing, I was thinking of something when you were talking. Try to inspire your husband for one thing, but what's that? You definitely try to inspire your husband to chant better japa, and the thing that will probably inspire him the most is a good, humble service attitude on your part, not a superior attitude. A superior attitude will bring out the rebellion generally. It will bring out the rebellion. So if you have a humble service attitude, that will probably inspire him.
And this couples up with that. It says how to humbleize myself practically if I intend to judge people, and how we learn not to judge them. Well, that story of Krishna Priya yesterday, where the Ramachandra Kaviraj was in his class and was trying to judge this woman who looked like she was chanting during his class, he learned the hard way. He said that if you can catch yourself, if you can catch yourself in the beginning thinking something about somebody, then just try to erase it really quick. You can try to point the finger at yourself and think, actually, I have that same quality. I really do. And if you get in that habit of doing that, because the mind really likes to judge people, just say, actually, I have the same thing, maybe in a different way, but that's the only way, or else maybe one of your god sisters or good friends will say, "Ooh, you realize what you're saying about this person?"
We all talk about the first. Get them all nice and it's cheating.
Don't pick an easy one.
What to do if the husband wants more kids but wife doesn't want? I feel like I would like to be done already with sex life. Get a dog. That's what my daughter did. She wanted more kids, so they agreed on getting a dog. Now they have 2 dogs. They can't do anything because they're stuck at home. Anyway, dogs might be more fun. Oh boy, that's going to be a tough one. I don't know. Some other wives out there might be able to answer that question who's been in that situation. I haven't been in that situation, so.
Is it really sex life that you want to be done with, or the burden of having another child?
That's what you
I
get
can't
from the sex life.
I can't ask you because you don't want to be standing and counting, but I think that's a question you need to ask. Because the act of having a sexual connection, not that, it doesn't last that long, not that big a deal, but the child lasts for a long time. Dealing with a kid, that takes forever. I can say 30 and 40 and you're still like a kid, it never, it doesn't end.
I know one woman who, didn't want to have any other kids at all, but her husband really wanted a boy, and so she did it. And it was a great austerity for her, but her husband's very happy and pleased, and she lived through it, and she's doing fine.
Yeah, and she almost didn't live through it. Physically, she almost didn't live through it.
But she did her job, and the families stay together.
Yeah, I think it's something that you have to discuss with your husband, because there's a lot more to it than sex life. There's a lot more to it, right? There's raising a child, there's having a baby, there's finances.
They already have one.
I know they know that, but it doubles. And it becomes, and if you have to really examine your concerns. It may be that you want to husband with our first child, I don't feel like I got enough help, or now I have 2 children and I really don't think I can handle 2 children alone, I need more help, I need you to do this and this, whatever it is, it may require some discussion with your husband and a real analysis of what the issues are here. Because it has to be a mutual agreement. You can't just make this decision unilaterally. Okay, you got another one.
If the parents are divorced and the child, 14 years old, the girl, decides to live with the father who does not want to communicate with the mother, what's the mother can do for her daughters in this situation? Be there, that's all I can say. When your daughters have problems, even though you might be far away, or live in a different country, or whatever, just be there and let her know that you're there for her whenever she wants. I know I had to do that with my daughter, it's a less difficult situation. But just let her know that I'll help you if you want, I'm always there for you.
I don't know how determined the father is to not let the child communicate with the mother, but it's almost impossible to prevent communication these days. I mean, you could get on Facebook and have an alias and make friends with your daughter, and she could be writing you every single day, and her father wouldn't know anything about it. So, because you could say you're 16, and you could say anything. You could create a character, But, even in order to be there and to connect, you have to kind of try to have some kind of communication. But I would suggest patience, because when a child is 14, pretty much whatever you force them to do, they're going to do the opposite when they're 18. So if he's forcing her not to talk to her mother, wait around until she's 18, and then she'll be on the phone with you, she'll be calling you, she'll be trying to get in touch with you. So just stay open and stay available.
14 is a tough year for teenagers. That's when all the real turmoil in mind happens. I can verify that. All the teenager girls went to our school. So yeah, you got to be really patient and praying for them.
Yeah. And try to, keep an open avenue somehow or other. Have a secret code or some kind of way that you can connect that works privately, so that when she's ready to communicate, she's able to communicate. Because there will come a time, in not too distant future, when the father has absolutely nothing to say who she communicates with, and she's going to tell him that in no uncertain words. So the default will be to communicate with the mother. Okay. And you want to pick another one, or anything? I'll do it. You just pick it. Any advice for someone who does not have a guru and is considering marriage to a non-devotee? Yes. Don't consider marriage to a non-devotee unless it's totally... Well, I shouldn't say that. It depends on how the non-devotee feels about Krishna consciousness. If the non-devotee is a non-devotee but willing to allow you to be Krishna conscious, willing to allow you to be a vegetarian, willing to allow you to live a Krishna conscious lifestyle, and you think it'll work, good luck. But it's definitely going to make your spiritual life a little bit more of a challenge. Okay, so that's it. And as far as a guru is concerned, you probably do have some shiksha gurus. Some people who you go to for advice, and some devotees that you take association from, that you take guidance from. And a Diksha guru, what to speak of Srila Prabhupada, that you have Srila Prabhupada in your life, so you definitely have a Shiksha guru in Srila Prabhupada, and you should cultivate that relationship by reading, by attending discussions, by going to the temple. You should cultivate your relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And in the course of cultivating that relationship with Srila Prabhupada, then you can begin to consider who will be your Diksha guru. And that may take years. It took Prabhupada 11 years to get initiated. And he knew who his guru was, but he still didn't get initiated for 11 years. So take your time and allow a relationship to develop. Hear different people, see who inspires you, and try not to get involved in a relationship that will not allow you to pursue your spiritual life. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but it's not a deal breaker for the man not to be a devotee. But it's a deal breaker if the man doesn't allow you to be a devotee. So then you have to consider that very carefully. And you have to be upfront, because sometimes we get in relationships. I don't know who this is, so I don't know how the relationship is coming about, whether you met him on some dating site, or your parents are involved, or you just met him in school and he's really cute, or whatever, I don't know. But make sure you know this person, because sometimes we don't know this person. We know a facade of this person. And things like your devotionalness and how deeply you are committed to being a devotee and how much you want to advance in spiritual life are things that need to be discussed. And before you can discuss them, you need to know the answers to those questions.
Especially, are you going to want your kids to be devotees?
Yes, that's a very big, important thing. Not only a devotees, what about your kids being a vegetarian? What about your kids being a vegetarian? What about your kids, what school are they going to go to? All these things need to be thought about on your part first, so that you really know where you stand, where your conviction lies. And then you need to be able to communicate with this person and see if you can live with his answers. But if you don't discuss it and you just, go to the movies in the park together and look into each other's eyes and think how gorgeous you are, then that's not going to really do the trick in the end. So if you really want to get to the root of things, then you're going to need to get to the root of things, and you should do it before you get really deeply involved in the relationship. Try to keep your wits about you. It's not.
I can see some negative patterns in my character due to past negative experiences, karma, and they affect my relationships and actions. So mainly relationships with devotees and also practice of devotion service, how to get healed from these experiences. We all have a heavy karma, and we all have a lot of experiences in our past lives that make it very difficult for us to interact with people. I know that just looking at ourselves, she was raised in New York where there's millions of people all around, and she just learned to accept all kinds of people, in her neighborhood. So many. I was raised in a very close family that didn't like anyone that wasn't a white American, rich, snobby type. My mother hated everybody, just everyone. So, and that affects me, even as a devotee, especially when I became a devotee, it affects me. It's hard for me, all of a sudden you're with people from all over the world and different colors and everything like that. I mean, it's gotten a little pure since then. But it affects you. So, some people have advantages, and everything like that. But Krishna consciousness is the cure. Hearing Srila Prabhupada's acceptance of everyone as a spirit soul. So I think in time, the negative experiences will go down because you'll have such positive experiences in Krishna consciousness that you can go all over the world and be with friends and have everything in common. It really is the cure. And as far as, that's the best thing, is just to keep in close association with devotees and realize that we're all in the same boat, we're all on the same page. That is how you heal.
Well, the process of devotional service is Aneche Ashaudi Maya Rasi Bhari. The Ashaudi means the medicine, the ointment. So that the herb, the healing herb, is the Harinama Mahamantra. That's what that song says. Aneche Ashaudi Maya Rasi Bhari. Harinama Mahamantra. So that Harinama Mahamantra is the herb, the healing herb, which cleanses the heart. Right? Cheta Dharma Marjanam, Bhava Mahadava Nivartanam. that by chanting Hare Krishna, the heart becomes cleansed, the impurities in the heart go away. That's what an arta nivritti is all about, that it takes the unwanted things in artas out of our heart. It's a process. We have, like when you go to the doctor, he says you got to do exercise, so you do some Zumba, and then you take some medicine, and then you have to have a diet. So we have a diet, we have prasadam, we have exercise, we dance and chant at Arti, and we have the medicine of the holy name. And those are the prescriptions that Krishna has given us. And if we do them faithfully every day, we take the medicine, we follow the diet, and we do the exercise, we engage in devotional service, it has an effect on us. Prabhupada in several places in Bhagavad Gita says this word automatically, which I often have fun with in my Bhakti Shastri classes. What does it mean automatically, that you press the button and you're a pure devotee? No, but you keep your lower nature in control as much as possible, and keep practicing, keep doing it. And then eventually what happens is the pushing to do the wrong thing subsides. It goes away. Just like people join Alcoholics Anonymous or Overeaters Anonymous or whatever Anonymous, and they get a group of people together who have the same desire to give up a bad habit, right? And they work together. When you feel the urge, I'm going to eat 20 pieces of Tara's cheesecake, then you call your friend up and she says, don't do it, only eat 10. Because if you eat 20, you'll get sick. So the thing, maybe it's Tara's cheesecake. No, it's not. Okay. So we seek help to keep our lower nature in control, under control, so that by practice we can purify our lower nature until our strength grows and we can handle it. And that may never be that we can handle it alone. We may always need people to hold our hands.
Also, if you know you have a really dirty spot in your heart and you have a problem with relationships, don't avoid it this lifetime. Work on it. Get rid of it. Otherwise, you'll be back here again, working on it again. We all have our past karma, our real problems that have been keeping us from Krishna for a long time. And I know relationships is when I had a really hard time with it. And I always just want to go all by myself. But don't do that, because then you're just going to be back here next lifetime working on it again. When you find, that's what's so nice about cleaning. This Krishna conscious cleaning is that you all of a sudden discover, whoa. Yep, I bet you that's been there a long time. And I just would like to avoid it, just like our kids when they clean the bathroom. I'd say, you didn't clean, behind, underneath, where no one wants to put their hand, and stuff like that in the bathroom. Well, it's dirty. Yeah, so that's what you want to get rid of. So what we really want to get rid of, we're volunteering. Okay, I want to become a devotee of Krishna. I want to go after Krishna. Okay, get down there and scrub that stuff. You're don't look at it. I'm pitching myself. How do you get rid of the negative symptoms of PMS? I can't think back that long. Go out and scream your rounds. I think that's what they used to do.
She used to be really nasty. I used to cry.
That's what she'd like me to do along.
She was so mean.
Sleep?
And sleep, prasadam, not a lot of sugar.
No, it's a lot of sugar.
No, don't listen to her, she was mean. Not a lot of sugar. Just take the quarter off. No, if you eat a healthy diet and you get good exercise, especially when you're PMSing, it's good to get a lot of exercise. It's good to go for long walks. She used to run. Just, get out in the air and scream around, and maybe minimize your association with other people. I don't know what this relationship is. I'm not sure what this relationship is. It shouldn't be intimate, because you're not married yet, so it shouldn't be intimate, and there should be some healthy distance between you and this person, whoever he is, even though you're contemplating marriage, maybe. Are you? I don't know. Boyfriend now, you go with somebody one day to eat pizza and he's your boyfriend, so I don't know.
And you live with him for 30 years.
Yeah, then you live with him for 30 years before you get married. Oh, God.
I suggest giving, they have these little people who get you together and ask questions until people think about it.
Yeah. One thing is, there's an organization, I'll just say this generally, so I don't have to deal with this particularly. But I will a little bit more, though, I want to. But I want to just recommend something. There's an organization called Prepare and Enrich, and you have the GBT here, very active in Brahmana and Gutama and her husband, Partha. So I was talking to Partha and Gutama, and they are certified Prepare and Enrich counselors. I'm sure there are some here, and maybe there's devotees that do it. If there aren't devotees that do it, some good householder women might consider getting the certification. It's free, and it only takes one day. It's one class for 7 hours. Then what happens is you connect with an organization called Prepare and Enrich. It's a Christian organization, but it's not like, you have to be saved, you have to surrender to Jesus Christ. Christian, it's just God-centered. And they have a series of questionnaires. They have many languages, French and English and Russian, yes. So you and this boyfriend, whoever he is, or your future spouse, you have to have some relationship with this person. It's not like an astrological thing where you go into it and it tells you whether you're compatible. What you do is, once you have a relationship with this person, you and him go to a Prepare and Enrich counselor. They give you a number, you go online, each of you separately fills out a questionnaire, they put that information together, they print the counselor a series of information, just comparing the two people's visions on various topics, on money, on religion, on different things. And it gives the counselor a profile of where the couple's strengths are and where the couple's weaknesses are and where the couple is really in trouble. And based on their own answers to the questions. And then you're trained to kind of go through a series of 4 meetings with the couple and give them some advice and some skills based on what their weaknesses are, tell them what their strengths are, how they can favor their strengths and fix their weaknesses and watch out for the red hot points which look like they're going to maybe be a deal breaker. So they don't advise you to get married or not get married, but they may tell you, this potential marriage is very unlikely to be comfortable for you because of this, and this. So you decide. The only thing that I see as a strength here is that you're both devotees of Krishna. I've had so many times that come up that you guys don't see the same on anything except that Krishna's God. Do you think that's going to work? So I think I recommend that you consider that before you get into a marriage. Now, as far as this husband telling you what you should do, boyfriend, sorry. Any man who doesn't respect that you have a way of doing things and that you have a way of thinking, watch out. That's all I can say. Just watch out. Because there has to be mutual respect. If there's no mutual respect, there's no polite way of saying to somebody, you better respect me or I'm going to be not. I mean, you have to protect yourself. You don't want to get into a relationship with someone who has no respect for you. And a person who doesn't think you can think and a person who doesn't think you know how to do anything obviously doesn't have very much respect for you. That's what I'm getting from this card. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, and you know who you are, so you know how you're reading it. But if you're reading it like I'm reading it, I'm saying think 50 times before you proceed with this relationship. That's it, folks. I mean, I don't know what this relationship is. I'm not sure what this relationship is. It shouldn't be intimate because you're not married yet. So it shouldn't be intimate, and there should be some healthy distance between you and this person, whoever he is, even though you're contemplating marriage, maybe. Are you? I don't know. Boyfriend now, you go with somebody one day to eat pizza and he's your boyfriend. So I don't know.
And you live with him for 30 years.
Yeah, then you live with him for 30 years before you get married. Oh, God.
I suggest they have these little people who get you together and ask questions until people think about it.
Yeah. thing is, there's an organization, I'll just say this generally, so I don't have to deal with this particularly. But I will a little bit more though, I want to. But I want to just recommend something. There's an organization called Prepare and Enrich, and you have the GBT here, very active in Grahana and Gutama and her husband, Parta. So I was talking to Parta and Gutama, and they are certified Prepare and Enrich counselors. I'm sure there are some here, and maybe there's devotees that do it. If there aren't devotees that do it, some good householder women might consider getting the certification. It's free, and it only takes 1 day. It's one class for 7 hours. Then what happens is you connect with an organization called Prepare and Enrich. It's a Christian organization, but it's not like, you know, you have to be saved, you have to surrender to Jesus Christ. Christian, it's just God-centered. And they have a series of questionnaires. They have many languages, French and English and Russian, yes. So you and this boyfriend, whoever he is, or your future spouse, you have to have some relationship with this person. It's not like an astrological thing where you go into it and it tells you whether you're compatible. What you do is, once you have a relationship with this person, you and him go to a Prepare and Enrich counselor. They give you a number, you go online, each of you separately fills out a questionnaire, they put that information together, they print the counselor a series of information, just comparing the two people's visions on various topics, on money, on religion, on different things. And it gives the counselor a profile of where the couple's strengths are and where the couple's weaknesses are and where the couple is really in trouble. And based on their own answers to the questions. And then you're trained to kind of go through a series of 4 meetings with the couple and give them some advice and some skills based on what their weaknesses are, tell them what their strengths are, how they can favor their strengths and fix their weaknesses and watch out for the red hot points which look like they're going to maybe be a deal breaker. So they don't advise you to get married or not get married, but they may tell you, this potential marriage is very unlikely to be comfortable for you because of this, and this. So you decide. The only thing that I see as a strength here is that you're both devotees of Krishna. I've had so many times that come up that you guys don't see the same on anything except that Krishna's God. Do you think that's going to work? So I think I recommend that you consider that before you get into a marriage. Now, as far as this husband telling you what you should do, boyfriend, sorry. Any man who doesn't respect that you have a way of doing things and that you have a way of thinking, watch out. That's all I can say. Just watch out. Because there has to be mutual respect. If there's no mutual respect, there's no polite way of saying to somebody, you better respect me or I'm going to be not. I mean, you have to protect yourself. You don't want to get into a relationship with someone who has no respect for you. And a person who doesn't think you can think and a person who doesn't think you know how to do anything obviously doesn't have very much respect for you. That's what I'm getting from this card. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, and you know who you are, so you know how you're reading it. But if you're reading it like I'm reading it, I'm saying think 50 times before you proceed with this relationship. That's it, folks. So, Prabhupada didn't want it. It's sinful. It's not a good thing. It breaks the 4 regulative principles. It doesn't help you become Krishna conscious. It doesn't help him become Krishna conscious. Don't do it. Amen. So, Prabhupada didn't want it. It's sinful. It's not a good thing. It breaks the 4 regulative principles. It doesn't help you become Krishna conscious. It doesn't help him become Krishna conscious. Don't do it. Amen. Advancements. 15 unwanted advances.
Tell Laxmimoni she knows good ways of getting it.
Yeah, just tell your authority. Don't even mess with it. Just go. Don't think, oh, I don't want to hurt the guy. guy's feelings, and, maybe he's a nice guy, and I don't want him to get in trouble. He may not get in trouble, he just may get married, but you should, which is trouble too, but that's what he's asking for, that's what he's gonna get. But you should tell your authority immediately, because you're not the only one. He's talking to you now. If you don't play the game, someone else will, and go to somebody else. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for our devotees. It's not a good thing for new women who come into the temple. He's in the wrong ashram. Help him find his way to the right ashram. Advancements. 15 unwanted advances.
Tell Laxmimoni she knows goods ways to get there.
Yeah, just tell your authority. Don't even mess with it. Just go. Don't think, oh, I don't want to hurt the guy's feelings, and maybe he's a nice guy, and I don't want him to get in trouble. He may not get in trouble. He just may get married, but you should, which is trouble too. But that's what he's asking for. That's what he's going to get. But you should tell your authority immediately, because you're not the only one. He's talking to you now. If you don't play the game, someone else will, and go to somebody else. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for our devotees. It's not a good thing for new women who come into the temple. He's in the wrong ashram. Help him find his way to the right ashram.